Good afternoon. Due to this awesome program, we're going to get started. So I want to welcome everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy birthday, Oregon. And what about those Rams?
Oh.
Woohoo!
How you doing?
You took my list.
Hey, 1 second.
I'm trying to recognize everyone that's in the audience, but Tom keeps adding to my list. Ready, set?
Almost.
And this is if I can read your writing. Well, I hope everybody has a nice Valentine's plan for their sweeties this evening, whether you're going out or staying home. Right? Here we go. Here we go. Well, welcome again. I'm going to recognize some of our elected officials in attendance here. Steve Horning, Mayor Turner, Lyle Moorhorse, Polk County Commissioner, Chair Dolores Pigsley, Siletz Tribe, here we go with his writing here, Frank Aspira, Celine Rialtos, and Bud Lane. Hope I haven't forgotten anybody there. Past presidents in attendance, Teresa Haskins. Immediate past president, Kathy Gordon. Ken Junt, Ryan Allbritton, who's joining us up here, TJ Sullivan, and John Miller. Nice turnout from our board, recognizing our newest board member, Connor Wrighton, Rich Duncan, Jeff Miller, Ted Ferry, Jennifer Martin, Brandon Blair, Alan Rasmussen, Kathy Gordon again, Eric Templeton, Julie Hoy, Mike Herron, Jeff Dunn. I think we should have a board meeting. We got him. And our new McLaren Leadership Foundation have Diane McLaren and Jim Sparkman. Thank you all for joining us. Now I'd like to invite Ted Ferry up from State Farm Insurance and board member to present our invocation. If you will please stand and remain standing, and follow Ted Ferry is national anthem performed by Manny Martinez.
Let's pray. Gracious Father, I thank you for the businesses represented here today. We ask that you bless them. I thank you especially for our elected officials that are here today, and we ask that you give them much wisdom. I thank you for our military and all of our first responders, and I ask that you protect them. Please, Lord God, fill us this day with joy, love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control in all matters that are laid before us. Help us to honor you in all that we do. In Christ's precious name, amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Ted and Manny, for your words and rhythm. Much appreciated. For those of you who don't know, I'm Zachary Silicki. I'm the Director of Business Advocacy here with the Chamber, and I have the honor of bestowing our Spirit of Salem Award this month. So each month, the Salem Chamber has the privilege and honor to bestow the Spirit of Salem Award to one or more individuals of Salem's most impactful leaders. Spirit of Salem Award recipients exhibit servant leadership in every facet of their work. Recipients are individuals or organizations who work tirelessly behind the scenes, day in and day out, to make Salem a special and inclusive place for everyone. There are leaders in our community who put others before themselves and are always seeking new ways to build up Salem to be stronger tomorrow than it is today. This month, we are honored to recognize an individual who has served Salem in the Oregon legislature for over 15 years. This individual is none other than former Representative Brian Clem. Clem grew up in Coos Bay, where his grandfather, father, brother, and briefly himself worked at the Weyerhaeuser Mill, which shut down in 1998. Clem left for Oregon State University, where he became the student body president and earned a bachelor's degree in political science in 1994. My formative years in a timber town, states Clem, at heart I was always going to be thinking more about the rural side of the urban-rural issues. His involvement in agriculture came later after he met Carol Suzuki while both worked at the Senate Democrat office in the mid-1990s. After he was deputy campaign director and then Salem field representative for U.S. Senator Ron Wyden, Clem quit, got married, and started working on his parents' 80-acre orchard in Parkdale near Hood River. The couple continued to live in Salem while they both worked there. Unlike timber giant Weyerhaeuser, the orchard eventually put Clem in the role of farm owner, facing its challenges of running a business, managing a farm, and providing housing for workers. That gave me a different perspective on agriculture because I saw it through a different lens, Clem said. It was after the voter approval of a 2004 ballot initiative, which required the state either to allow development or pay compensation for thousands of rural acres outside of urban growth boundaries of cities, that Clem edged his way back into politics. In his 15 years of service in the Capitol, Brian was a leader in building consensus amongst Democrats and Republicans. In an era of hyper-partisanship, where elected officials would only seek to build consensus with their own party, Brian always sought to extend his hands into partnership and approached his politics with the conviction that the best policy is rooted in hearing all voices of Oregonians. Brian has an extensive track record in advocating for rural Oregonians. He was often a lone wolf in his caucus as he sought to build stronger relationships between farmers and urban consumers. This work came in the form of policy which utilized the state's purchasing power to buy more of Oregon-grown products and has advocated for programs which promote gardens in schools and teaches students how their food is grown. He saw this as a means to bridge the urban-rural divide as well as helping farmers. Leaders like former Representative Clem are few and far between. His body of work over his long career in the legislature, fighting for all Oregonians, will have a lasting impact. Both our residents of Salem and the entire state of Oregon are blessed and thankful for your work. Brian, please come forward for your recognition, my friend. Bet you were planning on that one. Congratulations.
So I got tricked. Tom just said, "Hey, do you want to go to lunch?" And so, being in office a while, I could probably come up with just a few words, but I'm a little bit shocked. My wife asked me yesterday. She said, "Do you feel bad you didn't do a retirement party? Do you want me to do something?" I said, "No, I'm fine." So this is really the first post-elected moment here. So I really appreciate it. I loved being in the House. The House is a little bit rowdy, and I like that. And some of my best friends that I made there, like Kevin Cameron, Vic Gilliam, we started off eyeballing each other warily. We all represented Marion County, but they're like, "God, who's this Democrat? What is his business?" And I'm looking at them the same way. And then we realized we had way more in common than apart. And I guess that's the one thing that I'm nervous about for the future of the state and for the country. It's people disengage often from each other, and they end up in a tribal sort of mentality. And that's just not usually necessary. Sometimes there are huge, stark differences between people, but the friendships that undergird and the love of our community usually can carry you past those. You know, like to say, somebody feels one way about abortion, somebody feels another way. Okay, you're probably not ever going to you can't talk that one out, probably. But if you care about each other and you care about your community, you get past it and you work on the other 99.9% of the issues. And I'm afraid we're losing that at the moment. That's probably my biggest regret in leaving. I got very comfortable just being partisan or nonpartisan. And it takes a while to train yourself to do that. And so I think that we have opportunities to elect people some are running as nonpartisans, actually. But I would encourage us all to be focused on trying to get good people elected and people who are in the middle. The chamber has been great to me. When I first started my computer repair business, I joined, and shortly thereafter, we were trying to sell all these apples off of our orchard, and the co-op that we had in Parkdale that was just down the road, I think they said, we'll give you $12 for them if you'll drive them all the way to Washington. Well, I think the gas, just to even get to Hood River, was $12 for sure. And to go to Washington, we had to pay a picker $12 to pick them. All the cost was in. And so I went to my father-in-law. I said, what do you want to do about these apples? And we had probably 5 acres of them. And he said, just don't pick them. Just leave them on the tree. I said, no, we're not doing that. That's terrible. He's like, I'm telling you, you're a Democrat. You're an emotional Democrat. This is not the way we do business. I said, okay. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, maybe we just donate them, to the food bank. And he said, nah, okay, if you want to, you can do that. And I don't remember who it was at the chamber, but somebody I prevailed upon to let me email the chamber membership list. And I started peddling my apples through the email. And tons of people bought them. I mean, they were sold out in a few days. And we're talking like 80, 90,000 pounds of apples. And so then it was, could I figure out how to deliver them all to everybody who had bought them? That was a lot of work. So all my computer repair people were like running around hauling apples around to different businesses in town. But it was instrumental in my formative years, putting my own money on the line. So the deal was I had to pay my father-in-law for them at that point. Now he saw they were valuable, so he wanted his money. So I'm like, okay. So I gave him $200 a bin instead of the 12 he could get. And I turned it into a little business, and we had a fruit stand, and the chamber email list was the anchor that first year, and after that we continued to go more retail out on the corner of Kubler and Commercial. But it was just such a there were certainly Roths that didn't need me competing with them on their apples, but they were happy, I think, that a small farm was able to make something out of their crop. And I'll never forget that. Mike McLaren was a huge influence in many lives, but mine as well. And I was supposed to only talk 2 to 3 minutes, so I will wrap it up. But thank you for this award. It really means a tremendous amount to me. And Tom, I will get you back for surprising me one of these days. Thank you.
We're very, very fortunate to have Brian in our community for this many years. And there is always going to be, I like to think of it as just a 10% figure where you're not going to be able to come to the middle. But imagine if we focused on the 90% that we can as a community. There is no need for partisan politics if we can come to the middle and do what is right for our community. And by the way, it all starts with the small business community. Thank you all for being members. I'd like the opportunity now to introduce our sponsor for today's event. And this company has done great things in banking. They play well with their neighbors. They recognize that there are a lot of banking options out there, and so they define themselves by their people and their leadership. 20 years ago, local business owners were simply not satisfied with with the service level they were receiving at their respective banks, so they chose to be the change. Since then, Willamette Valley Bank has grown through customers' demands rather than their own need to grow. Over the past several years, Willamette Valley Bank has been acknowledged nationally for its financial strength and performance. The bank has been recognized as the nation's #1 community bank in America on the bankers list of top 200 community banks for the years of 2019, 2020, and 2021, right here in Salem. However, their real badge of honor is the communities they are in and the people that call those communities home. Both Salem and Kaiser are home to Willamette Valley Bank branches, and their staff members are highly involved in their respective communities as well as their chambers of commerce. The leadership of Willamette Valley Bank is not so much about what their leadership does, but the why behind what they do. They work tirelessly to develop skilled teams, and they're focused on what they can do within their community. Willamette Valley Bank's success in national rankings in culture and retention are a direct reflection of this leadership internally. We're pleased today to feature our sponsors for this forum speaker series event, Willamette Valley Bank, and representing the bank today will be our own Salem Chamber past president and senior vice president, Willamette Valley Bank. Please help me welcome Mr. Ryan Albritton.
Well, what do you say after that? Tom said some pretty amazing things about our company, and all of them are true. And I say that with all humility and respect. We also talked about doing the right thing, and I think that you can see that today in action at our head table here, not head table, but our sponsorship table. They even, I just noticed, let some key bank colleagues sit with them. And that's what a community bank does, people. That's what we do. No, I do want to introduce some folks here from our organization because without them, things don't happen. And so I'd like to just quickly call your attention to our CEO, Ryan Dempster, and Daly Howard, who is our business development officer, one of them, for our mortgage group and the bank here locally. And then Amy Mendonca, I want to give her a special shout out because we brought her back to Salem, and she's our new branch manager in the Salem market. So, yeah. So this is, today is about choices. And I just want to say one last thing about Willamette Valley Bank because I made a choice last year. And the choice after 23 years at a large institution to join a community bank that I absolutely love. And the biggest reason for me to do that was because of this right here. We've had a lot of choices. A lot of people love choices. Some haven't had the types of choices they wanted in the last 2 years. But this community sticks together, this community holds strong, and this is what it is about. So if you have a choice to make when it comes to your banking, when it comes to your project, I would just encourage you to think wisely, think local, because at Willamette Valley Bank, that's where local means something. So I get a privilege now to introduce our speakers for today. And after I'm done, I'm going to turn it over to Tom to kind of talk about what we're going to do after that. So bear with me as I read the biographies of our esteemed guests today. First of all, we have Justin Martin. He has over 20 years of experience in government, working at the federal, state, local, and tribal levels. Justin served as the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde's Intergovernmental Affairs Director for 7 years. While at Grand Ronde, Justin's government relations program was nationally recognized by the Harvard Project on American Indian Economic Development as one of the most progressive in the country. Justin is also a proud graduate of McKay High School, so am I, go Scots, Chemeketa Community College, and Western Oregon University. Justin worked as a legislative assistant during the 1995 Oregon legislative session for State Representative Terry Thompson and for the City of Salem's Public Works Department in Transportation Planning. Prior to working in government, Justin played professional baseball in the California Angels minor league system between the years of 1988 and 1992. Even though Justin set an impressive mark in 1988, leading the Northwest League in wild pitches, I'm just reading what was written. Go Scots. The lure of fame and making millions of dollars as a major league pitcher couldn't overcome his desire to work in government. I'll let you guys figure out the rest of that. Okay. Dolores Pigsley. Dolores Dee Pigsley was born in Toledo, Oregon, the youngest of 8 children. She lived and grew up at the Chemawa Indian School, where her parents were employed, graduating from North Salem High School. Go Vikings. Dolores began her career working for the Prudential Insurance Company and retired in 1988 after 24 years of service with the federal government at the Social Security Administration in Salem, rising to operations supervisor. Dolores was first selected as a Siletz Tribal Council representative in September of 1975. As tribal chairman, Dolores has met with city, country, state, and federal officials to represent the tribe's position on many issues. She has negotiated agreements, testified before congressional hearings, and continuously advocated for adequate funding for Indian programs. Dolores' efforts to build tribal sovereignty has resulted in improved law enforcement, housing, education, cultural resources, healthcare, and environmental and natural resources management. Environmental protection has been a priority under her leadership, and the tribe has been recognized for their timber management practices. And in efforts to improve the efficiency of tribal council, Dolores has implemented technological improvements and other procedural changes. Dolores credits the success of her tribe to all of the past and current tribal council leaders and to many national tribal leaders serving as mentors. The rebuilding of a tribe takes leadership and community support. And for our third speaker today, Craig Dorsey has been practicing Indian law, representing tribal governments for over 35 years. He was Assistant Attorney General on the Navajo Reservation for 3 years. He is a recognized national expert on the ICWA and over 50 reported appellate decisions from many different states. He has experience in treaty rights, land and trust issues, tribal sovereign immunity, jurisdiction disputes, contracting and self-governance under ISDA, legal challenges under IGRA, I thought banking was bad, and in representing tribal casinos. He advises several Indian tribes and tribal governing bodies on a wide range of issues affecting tribes. Those are our speakers for today, and I'll turn it now back over to Tom Hoffert. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Willamette Valley Bank, for allowing this program to happen. At the Chamber, we believe in helping businesses prosper so our entire community may thrive. This community discussion is incredibly complex. In fact, much more complex than you've probably read about or heard about. So we are going to deep dive that today. There's another saying at the Chamber that we have is the truth is not the best policy, it is the only policy. Truth be told, this was an incredibly challenging program to put together. And I would like to personally thank Justin Martin. I'd like to personally thank Chair Dolores for coming together and being willing to have this discussion in a group setting. To my understanding, this is the only time both of these individuals will be appearing on stage together in front of our community. That is what the Salem Chamber is about, being a premier convener of important community discussions. There is a level of tribal respect that I have learned. First of all, we will not be reading today a land statement. Both tribes have confirmed that sometimes that is viewed as posturing. We know the importance of the land that we are on and the people that were here before us. And the respect that us as community members hold for our various tribes across Oregon and our nation is profound. Second of all, we will be on a managed format today to allow both of these groups to have precisely the same opportunities to share thoughts. We will have 15-minute presentation starting with Mr. Justin Martin. Then there will be exactly a 5-minute Q&A period. At that point, Justin will self-excuse himself from the room. Justin is not an elected official of the Grand Ronde Tribe. And so it would be disrespectful for him to stand at this head table while an elected official of a fellow Oregon tribe were to be on stage. So please recognize Justin's departure is absolutely nothing to do with disrespect. It's quite the contrary. Following Mr. Martin's presentation, we will welcome Dee to the stage to provide the Siletz view of the proposed casino. Again, 15 minutes. Zachary will be monitoring time. Zachary, would you raise your hand for our speakers? On that, you will see cards of 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and 30 seconds, at which time I will then come up, try and wrap us up if we were in a spot. The key for our audience to know is we will have 5 minutes of Q&A on each side. We'd like you to gather over here at the Allied Video booth if you have a question. You may want to start doing that early if you know you have a question. Once the 15 minutes are up, we will immediately transition. We'll have a microphone to ask your question. Please be brief. We have 5 minutes. Thank you for your help with that. With that, I welcome Mr. Justin Martin to the stage to talk about the opposition to the Northeast Salem Casino project.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here with you today. As Tom mentioned, we really appreciate this being a different format than a debate format. Obviously, it would be inappropriate for me to be up here with Dee debating, but I want to make sure that everybody gets the facts, so we're going to hear both sides today. I really have two objectives with my talk today. One, I want you to all leave and go back to your jobs and your lives today with a little better understanding of tribal governments, why they're important, why we are such a fabric of Oregon, and why we're such a part of the Oregon way of life. And then second, I would like you to understand that this proposal is outside the scope of Oregon policy. It's been a recycled proposal. You've heard about it for years now. Matter of fact, it was turned down by a governor 30 years ago. It really divides tribes. It makes no economic sense, and it would lead to serious issues for the future of gambling in Oregon. As Tom mentioned, once again, this format, I have the utmost respect for tribal chairs, all 9 tribal chairs here in Oregon, and especially Dee. And Dee and I have worked together for a lot of years, and 95% of the time we're on the same page. Unfortunately, when it comes to issues like this, and as I explain policy, you'll see why there are such unique differences. Another thing in the introduction, I wanted to show everybody, this is my grandfather, Leon Chips Tom, who Dee and a lot of the council members know very well, or knew. He passed away in 2017. But I was fortunate to get to spend 48 years of my life with him. And other than the fact of knowing that my mother and my grandfather came from the Grand Ronde area, and my mom married a cowboy from Red Bluff, it was a wonderful experience to be able to work with him, travel, especially to DC and New York and Carolina, and see people get energized about what it means to be a real Indian. People would often come up to him and say, "Are you a real Indian?" And I was shocked by that, right? The first 14 years of my life, the tribe did not exist. And the same is for Siletz. 6 of the 9 tribes in Oregon were terminated in the 1950s. That was a governmental policy. Douglas McKay, who was a former Oregon governor from Ryan and I, namesake high school of McKay, went back, was the Secretary of the Interior. And in 1954, the Federal Termination Act terminated those 6 tribes out of Oregon's 9. And then we were scattered throughout the country, being offered jobs in Denver, being offered jobs in Los Angeles. Our land was then deemed surplus, sold off, in our case, to Hampton Lumber, in Klamath's case, to Weyerhaeuser. So you see, there's been this tradition of not a lot of respect for tribal governments. It took 29 years to be restored. That was an act of Congress through President Reagan. And it took Grand Ronde another 5 years to then get a little bit of reservation land back. We got 9,800 acres of contiguous timberlands back. That helped us sustain our government until the onset of tribal gaming in about 1995 for the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. So it's been a long road. It's taken 2 acts of Congress to get back to where we need to be. And the reality is now, the amount of gaming we have is good because it does wonderful things. We're able to take those revenues. We're able to fund programs like health, education, housing, elder pensions, and we're able to do things for the community as well. We now have our own police force. We have our own fire department. We have a health and wellness center that serves the entire 35-mile radius, Polk County included. We're able to lessen the burden on other governments because we are able to become more and more self-sufficient. So, why I give you that background, it's absolutely critical in looking at the future of gaming in Oregon. We've got 9 federally recognized tribes, 8 of which have casinos. The Burns Paiute have closed their casino because they didn't have enough population to draw to. So now we have 8 of the 9 offering these things, and each individual tribe has that ability to make that difference within their own communities. You look at Douglas County. The Cow Creek are the largest employer in Douglas County. You look at Grand Ronde. We are the largest employer in Polk County. You look at the Umatilla tribe. They're either 1 or 2 with the federal prison in terms of being the largest employer in that county. That is doing great things for rural Oregon. And as we all understand, times are very difficult in rural parts of the state right now. So why did the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act get developed in the first place? Everybody goes, hey, it was a wonderful way to give an opportunity to tribes to create some revenue for these programs that I talk about. That's one part of it. The other part of it was created as a backlash for governors who thought they might not have the opportunity to keep some regulation around Indian gaming once it came about. So what you're going to see in this project that's being proposed is you need sign-off from the federal government, and then you need, it's called a 2-part determination, and Craig can get much more lawyerly on this than I can. Then you need the governor to concur with that. That's very important, and you'll see why in a few of my slides. But again, that connection, community, those jobs, that ability to offer that to rural Oregon is absolutely critical in what we do day in and day out. You're also going to hear from the Siletz tribe about how they have a more standing in the Salem community. That's just not true. And you can see from this slide here, which I can't see, even without my glasses. But if you guys can see that, it says Salem, including the proposed casino site, is the Aboriginal homeland and within the exterior boundaries of the territory ceded by the Kalapuya tribe under the treaty with the Kalapuya, which was signed in January of 1855. The United States understood its obligations under that treaty. They understood that they were exclusive to the Kalapuya and those others that were moved to the Grand Ronde Reservation. The treaty provided for annuity payments to promote their well-being and advance them in civilization. All those annuities were paid at Grand Ronde. No Indians on the Oregon Coast Reservation, including the Siletz and its members, received Willamette Valley Treaty annuities. That's an important historical fact to remember. Next, I want to really focus in the short amount of time that we have. I could probably do 2 hours up here, Tom. But I want to talk specifically about the economic impact. If this proposal went forward, it's no secret, this would have a 46% impact on Grand Ronde's revenues. We've already experienced over 20% impact from Elan-A and the Siletz Casino in Ridgefield, Washington, Siletz County. That is devastating to us. So, as we talk about policy and as we talk about impacts, how does a governor or how do elected officials choose who gets to win and who gets to lose? That's a real problem going forward. That's a real problem for elected officials to take on. Second, we feel this would absolutely change the gaming landscape in Oregon. First and foremost, 25% under this current proposal would be given to the state of Oregon. The state of Oregon already has the biggest casino. All 8 tribes that offer gaming now only account for 29% of the market in Oregon. So as you can see, there's a little bit of charitable gaming, there's a little bit of other gaming. The majority of gaming done in this state is by the state lottery. Even though we only account for 29% of the market, we as tribes, Siletz and Grand Ronde together, pay for almost 70% of the regulation. That's just not fair. We've seen revenues over the last 13 years increase with the state lottery by 113%, while tribal revenues, Siletz and Grand Ronde included, have stayed flat or continued to drop. That's a problem. Why on earth would we ever give revenue to the state government? That's a horrible precedent. We should not set it. Second, private gaming. We've seen private gaming interest in 2010 and 2012, and then I saw them on a Zoom in an unrelated issue with a potential private casino down in Grants Pass at the Flying Lark and Grants Pass Downs. Those gentlemen that tried to pass an initiative to allow private casino gaming in Oregon and failed miserably in 2010 and 2012 were on that Zoom call listening. They want to see expansion of gaming. They want to see tribes move off reservation because that then gives them an in to go to Oregon voters and say, wait a minute, this isn't about tribes. This isn't about promoting rural Oregon. This isn't about making a difference in those areas. Now it's a free-for-all. Who can get closer to the metropolitan centers? Who can get closest to that market? That's a real issue, and that's what a project like this would lead to down the road. Third, as I talk about an arms race, so let's say a governor allows Siletz to move to Salem. Well, Grand Ronde's purchased land in Wood Village right outside of Portland. Are they going to let Grand Ronde move to the Portland metropolitan area? Is the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siusla, are they going to move to Eugene? Is Cow Creek going to move to Eugene? Are Warm Springs going to move to Bend? Is Burns going to move to Ontario, capture that Boise market? We think absolutely. And again, that notion of winners and losers that I talked about earlier, how do you decide who deserves this more than the other? So we really need to keep our arms around this policy. Then finally, you've heard me talk about urban versus rural. Unfortunately, location is a quirk of history. You guys have all heard that. I'm sure Harney County would love to set up shop in Multnomah County, take everything off the tax rolls and bring all that revenue back home. Unfortunately, it just doesn't happen like that. So we really think that this leads to an expansion, an arms race, and gambling now moving off of reservations where we're doing good, employing rural Oregonians, and going to those urban centers and just creating a mass Vegas-style effort in the future. You can see the other issues, traffic. This facility will have millions and millions of visitors. Everybody knows traveling south from Portland what's going on. You got Bridgeport Village, then you got Wilsonville, then you run into Woodburn Factory Outlets, then we got that In-N-Out Burger out there in Kaiser Station. Now we'd have this facility in Salem. It would be a real nightmare on I-5. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we've got our own police force in Grand Ronde, and Commissioner Moorhorse is here today. We've also got our own fire department. We're able to lessen some of the burden on those county governments. How would Siletz do that in the middle of Salem, essentially off reservation, even though their facility, you'll hear from Craig, is on reservation? But how on earth would we do that where that area of Northeast Salem, you heard in my introduction, I grew up and went to McKay. I went to Sacred Heart on Lancaster. I went to Chemeketa on Lancaster. Thankfully, Western and Harvard weren't located on Lancaster Avenue, but I was eventually able to get off there. I grew up in that area, and I know this from Sheriff Cast, who's on our Boys and Girls Club board, that area, that 2 to 3 miles in and around that facility are very high traffic areas, both for the county and for the Salem Police Department. So let's talk about policy real quick. How am I doing on time, Tom?
You got 3:30.
Okay. Let's talk about policy. Forever. Now I say forever. My forever compared to tribal elders is much smaller in my little 52 years here. But let's talk about policy. For a long time in Oregon, the policy has been consistent. 1 casino per tribe on reservation land. And what did that policy do? It gave everybody a clear insight into how this is going to work. So people invested in those properties. We talk about investment-backed expectation all the time in business. We invested in this property operating under one set of rules. Now, if that changes, like I mentioned earlier, we will attempt to go to Portland because we've got that responsibility for our tribal members. We've got that responsibility to continue to try to generate that revenue to help our members and to help our communities. So that's why that policy was so good for so long. Another policy that this current governor has stated is new casino projects would only be considered if there was an agreement amongst all tribes on the project. Well, obviously there is an agreement on this one, and it's not just Grand Ronde. And then proposals must not have a detrimental impact on another tribe. You guys have heard from me what the financial impacts would be. They would be huge. Next, there's a few quotes here, and I'm just going to read those real quick. Obviously, Governor Barbara Roberts turned this down. She mentioned that she recognizes and respects the sovereignty of Indian tribes in the state. She supports their efforts towards economic development. But in 1992, on this project specific, she is opposed unequivocally to off-reservation Class 3 gaming, full-blown slot machines, full-blown casinos, as a means to that end. She urged the secretary not to approve the application by Siletz to conduct gaming on land proposed to be taken into trust in Salem. That was 30 years ago. You can see the second quote is from John Kitzhaber, 1 casino per tribe on reservation land. And then finally, the governor said this to a Medford proposal. Coquel was looking to move to Medford. She said, "I do not believe that an expansion in the number of casinos cited in Oregon is in the best interests of the state or her people. I believe that the state should, as a matter of policy, resist the building of additional casinos because state support for even a single modest additional casino is likely to lead to significant efforts to expand gaming across Oregon, to the detriment of public welfare. I believe it essential that the state hold the line on the number of casinos within her borders whenever possible." So as we talk about that two-part determination earlier, you can see there's some real hurdles to this project. Finally, there's my information. If anybody needs to get hold of me, please work through Tom or Zach here at the chamber. And I think, again, in conclusion, I hope you understand a little more about tribal governments. I really appreciate the chamber giving me this opportunity. And again, to truly debate with Dee and or Craig, I think would be inappropriate. So thank you for letting us split out this forum. And thank you again. And finally, I hope you've got that knowledge, a little more knowledge of tribal governments. And then finally, I hope you realize this is a very far-reaching project, one that would have major implications, not just for Oregon's other tribes, but for Oregonians in general as we look and see an expansion of gaming. So with that, thank you very much, and I'll take questions and comments here for the next 5 minutes.
Great. Ron Peters, our amazing ambassador, has his arm up here. This is where you can go if you would like questions. Seeing that there is no lineup yet, Justin, I'll ask the question that came from our past presidents group. Where is Governor Brown currently on this project? This surely is known and on her radar. Do we have any insight yet?
Thank you, Tom, for that question. Well, I just read you guys a quote, but that's from 2016. Now, why I think that 1 casino per tribe on reservation land was such a critical policy for the state is because this governor has not just flat out said no to this proposal. She's entertaining it. She said so with a couple reasons. She would entertain that if all 9 tribes agreed and thought this was a good idea. She's also said we would consider it if we think it makes some kind of sense. Well, we haven't seen that yet. The problem is when you take a policy and go from one that covers all 9 tribes to one that's on a case-by-case basis, what you see are tribes spending resources, time, money, and effort in battling each other. And this isn't good. This isn't good for Siletz. This isn't good for Grand Ronde. It's not good for Burns. It's not good for Cow Creek when we continually have these types of disputes. That's why it's really important for the state to have these kind of policies in place so we all know what the rules of the game are and where we are going in the forward. So where we are going in terms of forward. If I had to predict or if we had to look, I would say look at her past positions and look at what she has said in the media in terms of off-reservation gaming, and I think it's very, very clear.
Quick question. So isn't the rules going to change when we have a new governor? Which is happening quickly.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you very much for that. Yes, we will see a new administration. We've got several candidates that obviously all the tribes are working to educate and to have those conversations with. And we believe at the end of the day that 1 casino per tribe on reservation should be the policy. We obviously will be advocating for that as we move forward. I do not believe, and hopefully somebody will answer the question with Siletz later on today, but I don't believe anybody is even trying to have 2 Class 3 facilities in Oregon. And I am of the understanding that Siletz does not intend to close their Class 3 facility, which is currently in a very prime spot in terms of tourism on the Oregon coast.
One last one.
You mentioned that that Grand Ronde wasn't the only tribe that had issues with this potential casino. Would you be able to expand on that a little bit? Have other tribes come out and made public stances?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Yes, obviously Cow Creek in Douglas County have an issue with this. They had a bigger issue with Coquel. Earlier when Coquel tried to move to Medford, we obviously fought with Warm Springs for about 14 years when they proposed to build a facility in the Columbia Gorge. And so there have really been 3 failed attempts at tribes trying to move off reservation over the past 30 years. We just feel that this is another one of those, and several other tribes do agree with that. The final thing, again, Tom, I know I'm done here, but I mean, just the economics alone, not to mention the policy, but giving 25% to the tribe. Giving 25%, frankly, would all have to go to Grand Ronde. It wouldn't even make up our deficit. Giving 25% to the other 8 tribes in Oregon. Mitigating things like traffic, fire, public safety, police. Then mitigating damages to local businesses, those local retailers, those local restaurants. How on earth would there be any money left over for the Siletz tribe? And we all know the Siletz tribes has the same need that every other tribe has in Oregon. They want to provide for their members, health, education, housing, just like I talked before. The reality is we can't just pick winners and losers and allow one tribe to move this way and another tribe to move that way, because it just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense for Indian tribes and doesn't make sense for the state of Oregon. So thank you all very much for this opportunity today, and I'll hand it over.
As I had mentioned, Justin will excuse himself now, and thank you. Great work on staying tight and true to our times. Next up, I would like to welcome Chair Dee Pigsley, and followed by Craig. Dee going first? Great. Dee, here is your clicker. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Welcome, Dee.
I can't do 2 things at once. Well, thank you all, and thank you for inviting us and inviting Justin. I have to say, Justin and I have worked together for many, many years, and when he was in college, we supported him getting through Harvard, and listening to his dialogue, it's quite amazing. I want to thank you all for the opportunity today to talk more about the Siletz Casino project. I'm the chairman of the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, and I've held that honor for 36 years. Just got reelected again last Saturday, and I've actually served on the tribal council for 42 years. So it's been a lifelong interest. I've lived in Salem most of my life, lived at Chmau Indian School, as was mentioned, and graduated of North Salem High School, and I also attended Sarah Catholic on Lancaster. So we all went to school on Lancaster, I guess. But I would like to share with you some more history about the tribe and about the project and how it will benefit the Salem community. The history of our tribe dates back to time immemorial, stretches across a third of Oregon. Our roots in the Willamette Valley are very strong. And the Kalapuya Treaty was a treaty of the Confederated Tribes of Siletz in 1855. It wasn't until 1857 when the Kalapuyas entered into another treaty with the Grand Ronde Tribe. For today, the Siletz Indians are comprised of 30 federally recognized tribes and bands, and we own 15,749 acres of land, of which 4,563 are timberlands and in trust. Throughout our existence, our tribes held an unwavering commitment to enriching the land, environmental conservation, improving the community, and the well-being of our tribal members. In fact, we've proudly donated $11.4 million through our charitable fund and other tribal resources. Since 1995, we've served our tribal members and Oregon communities with revenues from our casino property in Lincoln County, Chinook Winds Casino Resort. And as you know, we're working to garner approvals to build a second property in Salem. The casino project in Salem is on our trust land. And we built Chinook Winds 28 years ago. And this property has served Lincoln County and has served the entire state of Oregon as the largest employer in the county, offering over 1,000 living wage jobs. Our tribe is a valued community property, giving $3.5 million in cash and fundraising to the local community and community-based programs. Chinook Winds has become a safe haven for many people in times of need. Most recently, we supported evacuees from the devastating Echo Mountain fire. We've provided shuttle services. They've stayed at our hotel, And we've also afforded temporary housing on our property for victims of those fires through FEMA. Chinook Winds has also provided constant economic and travel industry revenue for the community. Countless local small businesses benefit from being a supplier to our operations. Real estate surrounding the property is some of the most sought after in the entire county and in Oregon. And our entertainment options bring in thousands of tourists each year. Don't just take my word for it. Our longstanding community partners in Lincoln County are supporting our expansion in Salem. Here's what the Lincoln City Police Department, Lincoln County Board of Commissioners, and Lincoln County School Districts have to say. In addition, local real estate agents are boasting about the support for Lincoln City community and contributions to real estate values increases and in tourism. We're now taking these best practices forward and expanding our footprint in the community to Salem. And I'm excited to share with you today some of the benefits this property will bring to the community of Salem, other tribes, and into the entire state of Oregon. First and foremost, this property is a unique opportunity for all tribes to benefit. The project creates an unprecedented revenue sharing agreement with the state, the local governments, as well as the other 8 tribes in Oregon. The property will also spur significant economic growth, offering examples for local families, tribal members, and small businesses to thrive. I've been a member of the North Salem community most all of my life. During the 2-year construction phase, the project will generate 2,300 jobs and $141 million in wages, and stimulate $492 million in economic impact, and produce $54 million in indirect purchases or spending through supply chains in the local economy. Once operational, the casino will be home to 1,200 permanent living wage jobs and bring in an estimated $231 million in annual gross revenue. We also expect the project to be an anchor development that will drive additional investments in North Salem. With the development of the casino project, we will be significantly investing in roads and public transportation, upgrading the wastewater, sewer systems, and building affordable homes as options in Salem. And we currently have an environmental assessment, I think it was approved recently, to start building those homes. The project will bring world-class entertainment to North Salem, including gaming, a full-service hotel, nightlife, and dining options. And last but not least, our 64,000 square foot event center will be a destination for concerts, festivals, conferences, and more. It can also support essential disaster preparedness and stationing. We're thankful for the current community support of the project. In a recent poll, 64% of Salem-Keizer residents shared their support for this project. We're also thankful for the 2,800 community members who've signed our petition to support the project. We look forward to a robust dialogue here today and in the months ahead, and the benefits that the casino project will bring to Salem. We feel confident everyone here today will see the importance of the project and play a role in addressing many of the challenges that Salem faces, including transportation, infrastructure, affordable housing, job and economic growth. And I thank you for the opportunity to share this information today. There's many legal issues involved, and I think Justin mentioned a few of them. The process that tribes have to go through to establish a casino. There's a law in place, there's policies in place, and nowhere in the state of Oregon is there a policy of one casino per tribe. We have negotiated compacts with governors of the past. That has never been a policy. So at this time, I'm going to ask Craig to come up. Craig is our attorney, and talk about a little bit about the process, where we are in that process and where we have to go. And I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. So I want to address some of the legal issues and background. Justin sort of touched on them, but just the background really quickly. In 1983, the Supreme Court held that Indian tribes were free to offer gaming if a state regulated rather than totally prohibited gaming. So that was the decision that opened the door for Indian gaming. President Reagan at the time encouraged tribal gaming as a way to try and reduce the federal Indian budget. States were concerned about it, as Justin talked about, that there might be unlimited gaming. So in 1988, Congress passed IGRA, one of the acronyms we're talking about, the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, which said tribes can engage in gaming, casino gaming, but only if they enter into a compact with the state. So for example, we have an 80-page compact every tribe in Oregon does with the state for Chinook Winds Casino in Lincoln County. It addresses all kinds of issues. We are heavily regulated by the state. The Oregon State Police have a complete separate unit that regulates tribal gaming. In addition, the tribe has its own gaming commission. In addition, the National Indian Gaming Commission, an arm of the Department of Interior, also regulates gaming. One of the aspects of that law in 1988 was it said you can game on lands that are already in trust status. You can't game on lands that are added to trust status, and that's where it becomes essentially like a reservation unless you do this two-part determination. And so the Secretary of Interior has to make a determination that the proposed project will be in the best interests of the tribe and won't be detrimental to the surrounding community. Then the governor has to concur in the secretary's determination. And only if those two things happen can the tribe go forward. Now, Justin talked about, and Justin and I work together on many things also, so we've known each other a long time. He talked about Governor Brown's position, and it is true. Governor Brown has said, I would really prefer that all 9 tribes agree on this proposal. And we said, going out, Grand Ronde will never agree to this proposal. Should we stop or should we go ahead knowing that's the case? She did not tell us to stop. What she said is she would exercise her responsibility if and when the secretary makes a positive determination in the tribe's favor. The Secretary of Interior made that determination 30 years ago in 1992. And then it comes to her, and she will decide whether, under state policy, the proposal should go forward. Where we are now very quickly is because the land's owned by the United States, we've had to prepare an environmental assessment. Comprehensive document. It's the Bureau of Indian Affairs that did that. They addressed all the factors we talked about: traffic, water, sewer, infrastructure, impacts on local businesses, all the rest of that. That has been issued in draft form. Comments are due up until April 8th. The Bureau will issue a final environmental assessment. At that point, the whole package goes to the Secretary of Interior to make this two-part determination. If she makes a positive determination, then it comes back to the governor. So we have a ways to go on this. So addressing, as the chairman stated, there is no one casino policy in the state. If you look in state law, state rules, state regulations, it's not there. Now, Grand Ronde has always advocated that policy because if you're limited to one casino on reservation, Grand Ronde is the closest casino to Portland and Salem. So they have always taken the position of trying to preserve that competitive position. But it is not there. If you look at the August edition of the Siletz Tribal newsletter, they have a conceptual drawing of their Wood Village casino. and it describes their meetings with local officials there. They are already pursuing it, so there's no one casino policy for them. And indeed, we've heard that they are submitting or have submitted a formal application to the Department of Interior for that casino. There are also 2 tribes already in Oregon that have 2 casinos, the Coos Tribe and the Warm Springs Tribe. They're a different level of casino, but the same slot machines, Class 2 versus Class 3. I won't get into that under IGRA because it's just confusing, but there are already a couple of tribes with extra casinos. We are offering a unique opportunity. We understand the governor doesn't have to make this decision, and that's why, and you're allowed to do this under IGRA, we're offering 25% of the net revenue to help mitigate impacts, fund state and local government. In addition, we're offering 50% of the net revenue to the other 8 tribes in Oregon to help rural communities. Like Burns Paiute, their casino had to close because they don't make enough money. Finally, ceded lands. Justin talked about how the Grand Ronde Tribe is the Kalapuya tribe that signed the treaty. I wish that were true. It's also the Siletz Tribe. When the Siletz Reservation was formed in 1855, 30 different tribes and bands from throughout Western Oregon were settled there. It was established in part for the Willamette Valley tribes. There are Kalapuya Indians on Grand Ronde. There are Kalapuya Indians on the Siletz Reservation. So we both share that history with the tribe that is from this area. I'm going to stop.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Hi, you spoke on the benefits of the economic impact that this would have, but I think that there's a darker side to gambling that we're all aware of. The Oregon Health Authority estimates 84,000 adults and adolescents meet the clinical diagnosis for gambling disorder, with another 180 at risk of developing a gambling problem. Do you have any programs or organizations that are in place to educate and rehabilitate these people, and what are your thoughts on that issue?
Yes, as a matter of fact, both Justin and I have served on the problem gambling task force that was formed under, I think it was under the lottery. And we have information available in the casino. We look for those issues where there is a problem and make referrals. And it's true, there are those people with a gambling issue. It hasn't stymied any of the casinos across the U.S. or in the state of Oregon, but there is information available in our casino where you cash your tickets and where you, they have brochures and people that pay a lot of attention.
Second question.
So once this, assuming the project goes forward, is there any requirements of the employees who will work at the casino once it's up and running? In other words, do they have residency requirements? Can only tribal members work there, or can folks from Washington drive down and work at this casino?
Anyone can work at the casino, and we're having a real shortage of workers today because of the COVID issues, but at Chinook Winds, only 13% of our staff are tribal. The rest are local workers. Some drive from as far as Salem to work at the casino. We have established bonuses to lure people and we have many services available, and benefits are great.
This is our last question.
Has anyone on your team studied the impact on small business of this proposal, either positive or negative impacts to the economies of the small local businesses that are in our community?
I believe there was a study, and I think it was completed by Eco Northwest, and we have a new report that just came out, and so we'll share that information. In Lincoln City, when we first built the casino, there was allegations that pawn shops would open and hotels would lose businesses, and as a result of Chinook Winds, there have been no pawn shops. There's been many more restaurants open and many new hotels. And if you visit Lincoln City, you can see the evidence of the economy there.
You have about 1.5 minutes that you could use for additional dialogue if you so choose.
Everything?
Leave it to the
Yeah, the lawyer.
The lawyer. He always has something to say, and it's usually good. And we pay attention, but not always.
Not always. No, I just wanted to say on the economic impact, the environmental assessment also addresses that. The impact on Lincoln City has been dramatically positive. The casino buys a lot of its supplies and other equipment from local businesses. In the environmental assessment, it shows a positive economic benefit. I just wanted to address in terms of the economic competition, and that was also raised by Grand Ronde on the reduction of their revenues. That's been temporary, like when Elon A came into place in Siletz. Everyone, the lottery, Siletz, Grand Ronde, experienced a temporary reduction in revenues, but I think it's pretty uniform across the way that last year has been the best year ever for tribal casinos in terms of revenues. The proportion of tribal revenues compared to the state, because the state's been expanding gaming dramatically, continues to drop, but there has been no reduction in revenues, and the environmental assessment finds that also.
And I have to say, when A opened, we were concerned about what effect it would have on Chinookwins. But every tribe has the opportunity to engage in gaming. There's a law, there's a process, and a way to do it. And I was on the freeway. I went to the A grand opening, and I sat on the freeway for an hour between exits. And that was the very day that it opened. I went there a week later, and there was not a traffic problem whatsoever. And so anything new does bring traffic, and we know that from Kaiser Station when In-N-Out Burger opened. They still see a lot of traffic. And we're working closely with Grand Ronde on opening Chick-fil-A, and I'm sure there'll be a traffic impact. Hopefully it won't last as long as the In-N-Out Burger. But we realize that everybody wants business. They want small businesses to be successful. Same thing on the coast. In order to be successful, you have to have traffic because you have to have people. And so you have to determine how you're going to deal with the traffic and the infrastructure. And we're committed to doing that.
Thank you, Chair Dolores. Thank you for extending your lunch hour a few extra minutes. If you can give me 3 more, I think you'll understand why. So first of all, wonderful job framing this conversation. We realize this is something that you are going to start to hear more and more about, so it's our duty to bring that to you first. Second of all, if you do have follow-up questions that come to mind, feel free to email myself or Zachary Zalicki those questions, and we'll route them to the proper tribal government for a response. Without our partners at Allied Video, best in class, right here in Salem, Oregon, these productions do not happen. Dan, your staff, thank you so much for the work that you do. The Salem Convention Center, Mike Herron, Theresa, Chrissy, just wonderful work. And the food is fantastic and great atmosphere that you create. Zach, would you mind standing up? Zach Stone is our photographer for many of our events. This is an incredibly talented gentleman. It's one thing to capture it behind the lens. It's another to then artfully deliver the product and images you all see. And so, Zach, thank you so much for your support. Ron Peters, great job. You are wonderful as our ambassador, one of our team members. That group, their sole role is to make sure you are all welcomed and enjoy being at these meetings, creating a great environment. Thank you so much, Ron. Former State Representative Brian Clem, it's going to take me a while to get used to, but Brian, thank you for being a consensus builder. While our organization did not always have 100% tracking with your voting record, we always appreciated your sincere engagement with this business community and to be accessible to your people. You are a model, actually, of how future elected officials should act and engage with their constituency, and we need to hold those people to the standards that Brian has set. Thank you, Brian, for your leadership, and what a great Spirit of Salem Award winner. A couple last announcements. We have our Chamber Businesswomen gathering tomorrow, 12 noon at Ross West Salem. If you'd like more information on that, salemchamber.org, or just grab Michelle or Naomi on our Chamber staff teams. Our next big event in the evening, mark your calendars now. Pull out your phones, you're allowed to. April 16th, that's a Saturday evening. We bring back the 71st Annual First Citizens Banquet, and we are ready. Our friends at Pioneer Trust and Mountain West Investment are title sponsors for that, and they cannot wait to welcome you back in the room. By the way, look around you. Do you think people are itching to get back in person? Great job, everyone. We had to roll out 4 additional tables. I'll be honest, that's, as the kids would say, it's been a minute. And it's been a while since we've had to do that. It's wonderful to see, and we hope you continue to gather at these forum luncheons. Speaking of which, our next luncheon will be April 11th. And we're just going to lower the temperature in the room a little. Just kidding. We are doing your mayoral debate along with your city council candidates. So April 11th is another cannot miss community discussion, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Today is Oregon's birthday, as well as Valentine's Day. Well done, Oregonians. We did something special. We have, you might notice, a wonderful bouquet here, and we have 3 gift bags put together by Naomi Tillery on our team, including wine from Willamette Valley Vineyards. Those were randomly selected from attendees in this room. Erica Hayward at Emerititle, would you come forward? Hayworth. Rich Duncan, you got selected. Rich Duncan Construction. Renee Campbell, Select Impressions. Where'd Renee go? Might be dropping, there she is. And you give and you receive. Guess who gets this beautiful bouquet? Daley Howard, Willamette Valley Bank. You are taking home this wonderful bouquet today. Sorry to scare you. Couple last announcements. I would like this gentleman to stand and please get a warm chamber welcome. Culture is what our staff have. By the way, our staff team could be doing a lot of things in life and choose nonprofit work. Would you help me welcome our newest staff member, Mr. Dan Johnson? Dan joins the Salem Chamber team as our marketing and communications manager, and we are very excited to have him starting on Thursday. Number 2, Zachary Zalicki, please raise your hand. I need some help. We believe deeply in making sure people appear on the ballots. To do that, you need to collect signatures. And to be a great organization, you represent all sides of an equation. I would ask that you sign, if you are a registered voter in Salem, which, gosh darn it, every one of you better be. It's separated by county, Marion and Polk County. We have 2 great individuals who are going to be on your mayoral slate. That is Shane Griggs and, of course, our city council president, Chris Hoy. This organization stands for making sure people are represented. Would you please sign your name to both of their signature sheets, and let's give them an overwhelming support from the business community that they are to appear on our ballots. This helps them out a lot. Imagine walking door to door, grabbing all those signatures. We brought the signature sheets to you, and we need your signatures on both of them. At no time are you saying you advocate for one or the other. Rather, that you want to see them on your ballots in May. Thank you for your help with that. In closing up, thank you to our partners at Willamette Valley Bank for making this happen. Ryan Dempster leads an incredible team, and you're going to see Ryan Albritton, Daley Howard, Callie Unrines everywhere. There are just great people in that company. Thank you so much for supporting this program today. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to seeing you in the very near future, whether it's a greeters in our Leadership Salem program, but definitely on April 11th for a nice soft conversation on what comes next for our city council, and certainly on April 16th as we award our new first citizen. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Thank you to our panelists, and have a wonderful day.